Welcome, readers. Today on Book Chat, we are discussing the very first book in our new fantasy read-along, Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. Stay tuned. Today's episode is sponsored by romance title Seasoned, written by Delaney Diamond. After 3 failed marriages, Renee Joseph is through with men. She just can't seem to get it right. Then things heat up with her neighbor, Clive. Will this relationship last, or is she destined to spend the rest of her life alone? Right when Adelaide Flores is getting used to life without her ex-husband, they're thrown a curveball that forces them together. As she and Hector handle a family crisis, the time they spend together reminds her of the good aspects of their marriage and how much she still misses him. But have they grown too far apart to make marriage work the second time around? All her adult life, Jackie Bryant has worked to get to the point where she is. She owns 3 successful boutiques, but there's something missing from her life, and her happiness will depend on the tough decisions she must make when her old lover, Tyson, comes back into her life. Seasoned features 3 women and their love stories. Seasoned is available now from Amazon, Barnes & Noble Nook, Apple, Google Play, and Kobo. Learn more by visiting DelaneyDiamond.com. Hey everyone, I am your host, Tamara Ford, and welcome to Book Chat here on the Shelf Addiction Podcast. Participate in this book discussion by joining the Facebook group Shelf Addiction Official. Talk about the series with us there, as well as other bookish topics. I hope to hear your thoughts on this book discussion. As always, you can find the 3 of us on Twitter and Instagram. The links for everything are below in the show notes. If you enjoyed today's episode, please support this podcast by sharing it with some book nerd friends or on your favorite social media space. That would really help me out, and I appreciate you for doing so. The uncut video version of this podcast is available now on Patreon. Join us there for exclusive videos, including this podcast after show. We get even more candid with what we have to say. So if you're interested in that at all, you'll need to come on over to Patreon and sign up. Before we get started, I have to issue a spoiler warning. This is a roundtable book discussion, so nothing is off limits. You've been warned. Welcome back to another 3 Book Blogger 1 Series read-along discussion, and today we are talking about the first book in our new read-along trilogy, The Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. Joining me are my 3 Book Blogger 1 Series read-along co-hosts, Casey and Nicola. Welcome back, ladies.
Hello. Hello.
Yes. So we are super excited, but before we get going, as always, we are going to tell you more about the book. So Casey, please run down the book stats.
All right. This is book 1 in the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy, titled Daughter of Smoke and Bone. It was published in September 2011 by Little Brown Books for Young Readers. The physical book has 420 pages, and the audiobook was narrated by Christine Havum and is 12 hours and 33 minutes long.
All right. Thank you. The synopsis, please, Nicola, if you would.
I will. Around the world, black handprints are appearing on doorways, scorched there by winged strangers who have crept through a slit in the sky. In a dark and dusty shop, a devil's supply of human teeth grows dangerously low. And in the tangled lanes of Prague, a young art student is about to be caught up in a brutal, otherworldly war. Meet Carew. She fills her sketchbooks with monsters that may or may not be real. She's prone to disappearing on mysterious errands. She speaks many languages, not all of them human, and her bright blue hair actually grows out of her head that way. Who is she? That is the question that haunts her, and she's about to find out. When one of the strangers, beautiful, haunted Akiva, fixes his fire-colored eyes on her in an alley in Marrakesh, the result is blood and starlight, secrets unveiled, and a star-crossed love whose roots drink deep of a violent past. But will Carew live to regret learning the truth about herself?
No, will she? Dun, dun, dun.
Maybe. Dun, dun, dun.
That's for book 2.
Right. So, as you guys know, spoiler alert, I give one in the intro, but just in case, spoiler alert, and you can talk with us about this book live in our Facebook group, Shelf Addiction Official. So that's that. Let's just jump on in. I noticed, okay, so this is my second time through this series, and I noticed this time, it didn't dawn on me the first time, but this the star-crossed love thing, it really had those Romeo and Juliet feels to it, and I didn't really remember that from before.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the whole point of everything, is that they are.
I know, but I just thought it was its own story. Like, I did not connect that, wow, this feels like something that already exists. I just remember really liking it.
That's fair.
And this time, I'm like, wow, this sounds like something that already exists.
Did you read it when it first came out? It's almost 10 years old now.
Oh, yeah. It's been a long time.
This is my first time reading it. So, and for those who are maybe new to the podcast, YA is not my first thing, but Casey and Tamara love it. So we do. And they stuck with me through the Rebecca Zanetti series. So I'm sticking with them through the YA trilogies.
And thank goodness they're only trilogies, so we don't torture you for 8 months.
Well, you win some, you lose some, right?
True.
Very true. Yes.
But I just remember having all the feels and all the love for these books, and I was like scared it wouldn't hold up for some reason. I was really nervous about that. But I really blasted through this book really quickly, and it felt just like with the last series we did. It felt like new to me again. It felt like new. It's been so long. So I don't even know if I could really classify this as reread, because I barely remember stuff, apparently.
I remember the big plot points, so I kind of knew what was coming. I didn't remember the tiny stuff in between. So
this is my first time reading it. So
what did you think?
What did I think?
Yes.
So as I mentioned earlier to Tamara and Casey before we got started, my Kindle was playing mind games with me. So there's a bunch of material at the end of the book. So when I was at 60% of the story, Kindle told me I was only at 40% of the story. So it ended at 80%. And I was worried because it felt like there was a lot left at certain points, and I thought it was going to be slower than it actually was. So it dragged a little bit in a couple places for me. But overall, I thought the world building was really interesting. I loved the thing about the wishes in the beginning. And I think, the world turned out to be so much bigger than I expected, right? So it started out as just being kind of like, oh, there's this fun little bit of magic going on, and Carew is the only one that really knows about it. And then it turns out like there's this whole literal other world involved, and I thought that was pretty cool.
That is what I was so excited for you to get to, because I'm like, I could tell from the part that you read. I'm like, she's like, oh great, another high school angsty magic. Whoa. I'm like, no, just hang tight. It's like bigger than that. It's not about high school. It
was a little bit about high school.
The very beginning was
in the first 20% of the book, she went away from that pretty quickly, I think. Even though we did have one time where Zuzana had to give her presentation, right? We went back for that. But she never actually, after like the first part of the book, she actually physically never went back to school.
Right. It didn't really feel like high school either. It felt more like college to me. I don't know.
Like an artsy college.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just because they were all on their own, like there were no parents involved anywhere, so that made it feel more like college. And also, I don't know of any high school where all you do is draw, and her other classes were like they didn't
painting and
yeah. So I don't know of any high schools you can go to where all you do is draw and paint.
And they had nude models too.
I know.
So
right?
that doesn't happen in America.
Drawing nude models. I don't know about that. In any country, I don't know about that. That seemed kind of a lot. I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know. I think classes are offered here, not in part as part of public school, but you can go to a community college and sign up for live model.
No, I meant like not high school.
Not part of a high school curriculum.
Yeah,
but,
not part of a
high school age students can go do that if they want to.
Yeah.
And I would not be surprised if it's available in Europe, because they're much less hung up about nudity than Americans are.
No, that is true. But it was odd. I mean, and made me think immediately that there was more to it, because what 17-year-old art student can speak a variety of languages, can just go on long weekends for these trips or wherever the hell she goes and pops back in whenever the hell she feels like it, has an apartment by herself. Like this is not.
Yeah. And that's why, it felt more like a college student's situation. But even Susanna seemed like she was doing the same thing, right? So,
well, she was living with an aunt, so that's yeah. At the end of the book, she gets Caru's apartment.
Yeah, and she was talking smack, and then she's like, "You didn't leave me any food in this mug. I'm hungry."
Yeah, best friends.
Yeah.
I liked Susanna a lot. I thought she gave the story a lot of, I guess, grounding is the right word. Kind of tethered it to reality, and relatability. I mean, even though Prague feels very different and kind of romantic in a literary sense, as opposed to like romance novel sense, she kept it real for me, and so I like that she was there. Kaz, on the other hand, was like super weird and not like what I was not a real person,
Yeah. But I do want to talk more about Susanna and Caru's relationship, because their relationship, to me, I love Susanna. She's like my favorite character in the book. I think she provides some comic relief, and she's like smart, and she generally doesn't take the bullshit. But that makes me wonder, why does she put up with a friend that's so fair weather, who's so unreliable?
She almost doesn't. They kind of have that out at one point in the book, right? Where she's like, I can't, you have to tell me what's going on. I mean,
yeah.
I forget where it was exactly.
But this has been going on for a long time.
For years.
Long time before she decided to say, okay, I'm done. But that was really, it was a good plot device to make her kind of be honest. But for years she dealt with this, and she's like, that's just Caru. She'll be back when she's back. I don't know.
Well, but she wasn't happy about it. She felt she was unhappy about not knowing about these errands.
Yeah, so why put up with it? I wonder what about their relationship was so special, because they're high schoolers, right? They're in high school. High schoolers are fair weather. They like, you on my shit list this week. We're not friends. Let's keep it real. So what made Susanna, I think, like, it's not on the page, obviously. We're going to have to probably make some assumptions about her. But what about her makes her want to hang in there with Caru? Like, yeah, she a little bit weird. She on my nerves. But that's my girl. I don't care what she's doing.
I think it was on the page. There was something in there, and I can't remember exactly where it was or what was said, but there was a point where they were talking about her. We got inside Susanna's head a little bit, and she said that there was a look of loneliness and vulnerability that really made her want to. I think it didn't say the word protective, but that was kind of the sense I got, that she felt. She could see that Caru needed somebody, and I think that was what kept her going in there for a while. I have a highlight that I pulled about Caru's thoughts about Susanna, and this is where they're talking about, I think she had just met Akiva, and she was trying to figure out how she felt about him, and there was a lot of talk about Kaz and his perfidy, his lack of heroism, I guess. But they're talking about butterflies, and she draws butterflies inside some intestines, and they're talking about Susanna said those are pretty stupid butterflies to fall for him anyway. You'll grow new ones with more sense, new wise butterflies. And the comment that I highlighted was that Caru loved Susanna for her willingness to play out such silliness on a long kite string. I really liked that phrase, the long kite, like just keep it going, feed it out, let it go. I really liked that visual thought. So, and they're going to that cafe with the
poison.
Yeah, with the gas masks and the horsemen and stuff, which turned out to be a little bit. I'm thinking there's some symbolism there, right?
That seems very
bit.
Prague to me. Like, it just seems very Prague to me. Like, in my mind, I'm like, it's cold, it's dark, and we're going to this kind of place. I can see it. I can see it.
Have some goulash that may or may not be poisoned.
Right. The series, the book opens with Carew being accosted by her former boyfriend. What did you think about her boyfriend? Like, he's kind of gross. He's like, we're meant to be together. He's like, he's so gross in a lot of ways.
Many men like him. And many guys, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He is very accurate and very gross.
I'm like, why would she even? Because, even the little butterfly she mentioned, but other than him looking good, because Carew mentioned he looks good. I told him
she was lonely. Good. That was really her excuse, was that she was lonely, and here's this pretty boy finally looking at her, and she's like, okay.
Well, yeah, she talked about the emptiness inside, and that sometimes it felt a little bit more distant when she had somebody to touch and to hold, and I think that's I know, but that's I think a lot of people feel that way. Even people who aren't resurrected, whatever she is, chimera.
I get that, right? But so I keep drawing back. This is supposed to be high school. You don't have to have a boy. And that guy's 20 years old. He's out of high school.
Yeah.
He's not in high school with you anymore. I can see you having a little fling, but I don't know. That guy was just gross. And then he keeps coming around and he's like, oh, let me show up for your class and be the nude model. Oh my God. Oh.
But that was an amazing scene, right? That was wonderful. That was the thing that made me go, okay, yeah, let's read this.
Those wishes were hilarious. I'm like, oh, all the places he could not scratch in public. He just ran out of the room. I love it.
I love it too.
So good.
So, that's that kind of revenge that we all fantasize about with people that do us wrong, and it's just petty, and it's not gonna hurt them, and it's not going to, it's not violent, doesn't make you feel like a horrible person, but just like, yeah.
He comes back at the end, and he's like trying to take credit for their aerial fight that she had with Akiva, and he's like, yeah, this is all part of my vampire tour.
Well, he's one of those people who likes to be in the limelight. That was not surprising to me at all.
He needs more comeuppance. He needs more scratching in awkward places. Is what I'm saying. Is like.
Well, I haven't read the other two books, but I could see how. I don't think the author would bring him back in that scene if he wasn't going to show up again in future books. So you guys can do the thing.
No spoilers.
and know whether I'm right or wrong, but as a first time reader, that to me is a hint that he's going to show up again, because it would be very easy for him to just not do anything, for that fight, for him to just be somewhere else during that fight,
So. But I did kind of just want to go back just a tad. So, we were talking about those wishes she made on him to make him itch and all that crazy stuff. So as soon as she goes to see Brimstone, he's like berating her. Like, that was dumb. Why are you using your wishes for that? He's like, stop squandering yourself, child. Wait for love. You'll know.
Oh my God.
I'm like, oh my God. He's like, he's like, wait for the essential one. And she's like, well, how do I know if it's essential? He's like, basically, you'll know when it's essential. You don't want to be putting
non-essential dicks inside of your body.
Those non-essential penises, okay? That's what we're talking about.
That was a funny line.
That was the best.
It was.
Nothing non-essential, from drugs to, he's like, he runs the gamut. He's like, oh yeah, non-essential penises too.
Drugs, tattoos, alcohol, penises.
The whole
Don't put it in you. Don't put it in you.
Don't put it in you. That's the best parent talk any YA book has ever had.
I know. Did you think that was kind of out of line for him, at that point in the book for him to say that? Or did you just kind of was like, oh, she needed to hear it?
Both. He's not really her father. he is raising her. So he does have those parental feelings because he's raised her almost twice now. Because she went and worked for him when she was 10 before.
Yeah, but at this point, we didn't know that.
Yeah, no, we didn't know that.
I think he's a fatherly figure, but we know that he's not normal, right? We know that he's kind of this otherworldly creature. We know that her life has not been normal. And again, she feels older than 17 or whatever. So I took it as something I wasn't thinking in my head of like, oh my God, could I ever listen to my dad say that to me when I was 17? No. But could Brimstone say it to Carew? Yeah. So, because it's different, you know.
And she respects him, like, a lot. Yeah. You can tell she respects, like, she cares about what he thinks.
All over the world, right? So if he can say, you know, go to Marrakesh and go to Paris and go to Bogota and collect these things from skeevy, questionable people for me, then yeah, he can talk about sex with her.
That's true.
Yeah,
I mean, he treats her like an adult.
Yeah, that was pretty spot on, though. I think she needed to hear it because then later she's like, I kind of understand what he meant by essential. I kind of get it now because, you know.
It's instant love. She saw it and it was just there.
Yeah.
Well, he did try to kill. Are we talking about Akiva now? Because he did try to kill her at first. And she almost killed him back. But they both
kind of looked at each other like they didn't just see each other and attack. They kind of were like,
yeah.
That felt it felt very manga to me, which is not a genre I read at all, but my kids like it. But the names, manga and Carew, and the fiery eyeballs and the hamsas, I mean, I could definitely see this as a graphic novel or as a Japanese and anime style show. So,
I think this would probably look really good, like you said, like an anime or something, but I don't think it would be a good movie. I just can't imagine them spending the kind of money they need to spend to make these characters look the way they need to look, like consistently between the real world and the other world, and it's just the languages action. And it was just too much.
You could do it in an animation, but a live action would be ambitious. It could be done. I mean,
it would be a lot of CG work.
I mean, it would have to be a high budget thing, right? If they can do Lord of the Rings and they can do Star Wars, they could do this movie. But the question is whether whoever they are. The question is whether it would be done, whether there would be enough budget to do it right. Because I don't think this is kind of the big name title that Lord of the Rings or Star Wars would be.
Well, and also I think the window for this type of series is kind of closed as far as movies, because, you know, there was that window of time where they were remaking average at best YA books. And so, you know, I feel like now I think it's missed the window, obviously, for a live action thing, in my opinion, but you never know. It could be sitting on someone's shelf that they've already bought rights or something, and they're just not doing anything with it. That's possible.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just speculating that it seemed like when I tried to get a visual, it looked very anime to me in my head.
That's fair. It's very over the top in the best way. Like, it's described really well throughout the book, but it is very over the top.
I would have loved to seen the sketchbooks that Carew has. So we're in the real world, right? And I don't know anything about, you know, chimera or angels or anything. And you're drawing these crazy ass photos. I wonder what I would think. Like, she just has a crazy imagination or what?
Probably, because she's in all these art classes and you would never really think that a snake woman would be real, right? Like, if somebody showed you a picture of that right now, you'd probably look at it and go, this is cool or weird or something.
I mean, Eurocentric mythology has a lot of that. I mean, the ones that she was drawing were a little different, but, you know, there's centaurs and there's harpies and there's lots of half one thing, half another, or blends of three. Like a griffin, I think, is an eagle and a lion and a I can't remember. Anyway. So yeah, I mean, if you're in Prague, which is Europe, and you're looking at something like this, you're just going to think, oh, this is at least I would look at it and think this is based in mythology, and taken another step further, where she's created her own blends,
her own artistic flair, as you will.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I would have assumed it was from her imagination.
Mm-hmm. I kind of like how she tells the truth, but it's a lie. So it's like she uses the truth to hide the truth. So it's like, it's so ridiculous that no one ever believes it anyway. So
hiding in plain sight.
Yeah.
Yep.
So instead of making up some crazy stories about where she's been, she just was like, oh yeah, that time she got malaria.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I think it was the train or something. I don't know.
Somebody sneezed on my face on the subway. That's not how you get malaria.
My hair just grows like this.
Yes. I liked the caterpillar eyebrows too.
Very petty.
Yeah.
Very petty.
Although, it kind of occurs to me that right now that's kind of in, right? Big, heavy. I don't think it was in 2011, but and I suppose if they're like totally untamed, it wouldn't be cool. But it's fashionable right now to have really thick, heavy eyebrows,
which I think is crazy. But that's just me. I mean, I've never been a pencil brow type of person where it's pencil thin. I've always wanted regular, natural arch brows. But now these really emphasized brows, like they go and get them tattooed and they're doing all this crazy shit. I'm like, why? No, ew. But
I don't know. I when I was a teenager, it was all about the shiny blue eyeshadow. So I can't really judge if people are deciding to do something. I wouldn't.
There's a difference between shiny blue eyeshadow and tattooed on eyebrows. So if you can, wipe off the eyeshadow.
Yeah. Well, the what is that called? The microblading isn't permanent. It fades. It's like after 6 months it fades out. So.
No, it takes like 2 years for some of it to go, depending on who you go to. And
yeah, I don't know.
I had friends who did it. But anyway.
Yeah, so
off topic.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, that's part of our charm, right? That's part of our charm. And our fearless editor can cut it out later if
or not. Or not. Love us. They love what we talk about. That's why they listen.
If we wander too far off track.
Yeah, if it gets too crazy, I'll do something. But otherwise, what else? We're freestyling.
Anyway, I thought that was amusing. The caterpillar eyebrows, and I thought it was kind of. It said something about her character that she remembered later, and she fixed it because she had promised to. So I liked that.
Yeah.
So, what did you guys think about Akiva? We haven't really talked about him specifically. I don't know. At first, I felt like there was nothing about him that made me see the natural attraction, other than obviously he just looks good, right? We all know she likes guys that just look good. But it took a minute for me to be like, oh, Akiva's got some, toward the end, I started, when I learned her history, I learned his history, and that made me care about him. But up till then, I'm kind of like, Akiva's all right, I guess. What did you guys think about him?
Same. Once you learn his history, then he becomes this interesting character who you want to learn more about. Before, he's just a pretty face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for me, it only worked. I mean, this is obvious. It could not have worked if it weren't paranormal, but I just kind of went with the feeling that there was something connecting them that they didn't understand. But there wasn't much otherwise. It wasn't demonstrated. It wasn't something that I don't know. But yeah, I feel what you guys are saying. I think their first meeting was very dramatic, where he tries to kill her, obviously. He sort of pulls his punches and he doesn't know why, and he thinks about it later. But she also discovers that the palm tattoos, the hamsas, have power, and she didn't know that they did. So I thought that was a really good scene, a really exciting scene where they first met, and she starts to realize that she's not just this human foundling that knows some interesting things about wishes. There's something else going on there.
Oh, a whole lot. A whole lot.
Much.
But she doesn't. I don't think she really knows that at first, right?
No,
she
doesn't.
thinks of herself as pretty ordinary.
Yeah, and actually, even Akiva didn't even make the jump, the leap to figure out what was going on until he saw the wishbone.
Mm-hmm.
And then he kind of put it together, and he's like, okay, well, all right, listen, we got to break this wishbone so you can figure out what's what. And then he just knows what to do.
Which is not obvious to me, right? So that her memories would have been stored in the wishbone. I don't know if he can feel the power in it or something, but
she always said it was warm. So I don't know if that was the magic, but after she put it on, she said it was warm and it felt like she needed to touch it. And she kind of related that back to Brimstone, like maybe it was him, but she didn't think it was magical at all.
Well, when she was magical, it was not magical, right? And then he wore it when he was raising her, and then Kishmish carried it to her when the portals were burning.
Yes.
So she didn't have it until after the portals burned.
Mm-hmm. Yes. But she would think about Brimstone as she wore it and think about it was warm and felt like it needed to be touched, and she'd always wanted to touch it before when she was growing up and sitting in Brimstone's lap. So,
I understand. After learning her story, I kind of understand why Brimstone wanted to keep her hidden. Mm-hmm. But I just think that feels so wrong to just let her not know what's going on, and it gets to the point where all hell's broke loose. Literally before she has the tool to figure out who she is, in that way. It's like, come on, you should have, it's like you trained her, but you didn't train her. You know what I mean? Like you didn't prepare her for the worst case scenario.
I was going to say, do you think he was going to tell her soon? Because he had that conversation about her being a butterfly and just leaving. And she interpreted that as like just going off into Earth and being human for the rest of the life and not working with him.
I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit of both. I mean, maybe when she found out the truth, he knew she would leave to try to, I don't know, get revenge or something. Or maybe he just thought she'd leave.
I mean, she doesn't have much tying her to the other world, right? Mm-hmm. She didn't have a family. Her foster sister betrayed her. The people she cared about were the ones in that shop even beforehand, right? Mm-hmm. And Thiago is still around, and he is not going to be okay with her returning to their world. Mm-hmm. Those of you who have already read the second and third books, I'm sure that there's more to that story coming. But I guess I could see him wanting her to just never go back to that war-torn world. It seems like Earth is nicer.
I feel like he should have did it all the way then. Like, I feel like holding her in that middle place where she knows some things, she learned some things, but not others. That just made her more curious and made it more stressful for her. Mm-hmm. It would have been better off leaving her like on someone's doorstep. I mean, honestly, right? Like, if you're gonna do it all the way. I mean, but to keep her in this limbo where, run these errands for me. Here, I'll teach you how to sort these teeth. He's trying to like teach her again, but not give her everything. And that's kind of annoying to me.
Yeah. She also should have brought up the burned hand marks as soon as she started seeing them.
Yeah, I thought it was weird that she didn't tell him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I know they started fighting and she got distracted and shit happened. But she should have said something.
Yeah, especially when the stories were on the news about how you couldn't paint over them and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought that was strange too.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so let's take a quick break here. You're going to hear some words from our sponsors, and then we will be right back to finish out this discussion. Stay with us.
Your internet and wireless should always have you covered. And with Xfinity, you're covered far and wide. You'll get the best internet experience at home with Xfinity X5 and the best wireless coverage on the most reliable network with Xfinity Mobile. Plus, for a limited time, ask how to get $400 off an eligible Samsung 5G phone. To learn more, click, call, or visit a store today. Requires residential post-pay Xfinity internet. Restrictions apply. Samsung offer ends 9/15. 5G only in parts of select cities.
Everything in this shed, starting with those.
Okay, gotta fix all of these.
That'll be so easy.
This needs some love for sure.
Definitely that.
True DIYers see projects everywhere, from repainting patio furniture to repurposing an old light fixture. For all of those to-dos, trust Krylon Fusion all-in-one paint and primer spray paint. It bonds to difficult surfaces and gives you maximum rust protection with no sanding or priming. And that's that. Krylon. Today we spray.
Today's episode is brought to you by the Shelf Addiction merch store. Check out all the bookish t-shirts, notebooks, mugs, and more. Don't miss out on these original designs, perfect for any book nerd. Support the podcast and visit shelfaddiction.com/merch and pick up your next favorite bookish item. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. What were you saying? I feel like, Nicola, were you saying something before we...
No, I think we were just talking about the hand marks and it being strange that she didn't let Brimstone know that this was going on.
She didn't even tell Issa, which if she had told Issa right after going through the door, Issa would have known and told Brimstone.
Right. I mean, she should have known it was something was going on.
Yeah, she always felt like it's like, and that should have been an indicator to her that something was going to go left anyway, because it seems like she always had in her mind, she was nervous that one day the door wouldn't open. Like she always kind of felt like this environment, this situation had a timer on it anyway, the older she got.
Well, you guys know there is the Black Hand was a mafia symbol in the United States.
I did not know this.
Yeah, it was a thing. So it was because the members were illiterate, so putting up a sign or something was not useful. So it would go on the doors, and it was a mark that somebody in the family lived there.
Yikes. Yeah, that definitely wasn't. I mean, and the fact that they were just showing up on all of these doors everywhere, that was blatantly something is wrong, and then not to say anything.
I think to be honest, I'm not sure it would have made the news like that, because when you think about it, there's like one door in, per major city, right? It's not like they're all over.
It would have made
neighborhood.
local news.
Maybe.
But she saw like at least 3 doors burned with it.
She did. I'm just saying, I'm not sure it would have really made the human news like it was mentioned, because I just think it's too. There wouldn't be enough of them, right? It's like
if it's a slow news day and the local news is bored and the world's not on fire itself, they might talk about, oh, hey, this door over at the church got burned and we can't fix it. I don't think every door would have had news about it, but some of them might in certain areas.
So in the book, there was it mentioned that, it had made the news because all around the world, these handprints were appearing. I just don't think that those dots would have been connected by the human reporters. Because there just wouldn't be enough of them.
I feel like some of the doors too, they feel like they may be like hidden, not like they're just on a church or you know what I mean, like they're down a dark alley,
right? And she says that like they open into like dank laundry rooms and stuff. They're not like on the main drag or where a lot of people are going to notice it.
Actually, that one scene was crazy when she was trying to get in the door and the woman kept trying to like shove her out. She's like screaming, open the door. And the lady's like, oh, what are you doing? That was kind of dramatic. Like, oh dear.
Yeah, that could get you into some trouble, I guess, if the secret doorway
Mhm.
part turned out to go away.
Because she doesn't have any power to open it. She goes in the first door and she waits for Issa. She knocks and she waits for Issa to open it or not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I don't think they ever didn't open it for her, though, did they? I think she had to wait for a long time a few times.
Yeah,
She
if
has
someone
to
was in the
wait.
shop.
But other than that, no, they never kept it shut on her.
Yeah.
Well,
but she was always afraid
until they
that they
threw
would.
her out. But
Right. I mean, she was always afraid that they would, but
Which is like, you wonder though, where did you get that fear from? Like, if they'd never done it and they never threatened you with it, why is that the fear that you would have, that they would, you, if anything, you think you'd feel entitled, like, this is my family, they never lock me out, kind of thing.
well, it's like weird anxieties. So if you're home alone and all of a sudden you hear a noise, and you're like, oh shit, there's a serial killer in my house with an axe about to murder me. And like, that's never happened before, but there's that weird noise, and you're like,
remember,
yep,
she's very young throughout all of this, right? And so she gets sent out by herself into the world with no adult help, and she can't open that door. All she can do is wait for it to be opened for her. So it's a control thing, I think.
Yeah, I do think it's a control thing, because especially like in this case, she was running from Akiva, wasn't she? She was running to get away and she couldn't even let herself in. So she's like panicked.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. I feel like, come on, people, give her a back door, help her out, do something. I mean, what if she was in trouble? Like, you're sending her off to all these skeevy places, and I guess maybe that's why he loads her up with the wishes.
It did train her how to fight.
Yeah.
And she has the necklace of wishes to help her out. But the little wishes, they can't do too much. But
that she wastes.
Yeah.
She did get shot one time, and she talks about
3 times, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 3 times. Well,
she had 3 scars.
In the one scene, she got hit 3 times.
I got shot. I got malaria, dude. You gotta do something else for me, okay?
Yeah.
Like, come on. Well, I mean, he did pay her well. I mean, she had this really cool apartment, and she had money. That's why she could stop and buy gifts for her friends.
A lot of money.
Well, she didn't know that until after he was gone. Somehow, and that was kind of like glossed over. Like, how did she not know that before? But now she does.
I don't know.
Interesting.
Magic.
Apparently.
So what did you guys think of the other world? Like, when we start learning about Madrigal and her life, and like how she would go around like collecting souls basically after the battles. Like, what'd you guys think about all of that?
I thought it was really interesting.
It was. I had a couple, I thought that Carew had some interesting things to say about colonialism when she first meets Akiva, and he's explaining to her what's going on in the other world. And then when she sees the other world, or when we see it, I guess, I don't know. It was kind of like, this is a weird combination between reincarnation and zombies.
It is.
But it's definitely, I mean, the particular way it was imagined is different from most other mythologies that I've run into. So there's points for it not being another shifter or vampire story, I guess.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting and cool, and not something I read very often at all, about, even as simple as how they collect the souls with the smoke and all that, and the steps like they go through to find all the parts. Like, she was really proud of getting her sister a body that she thought was similar to what she had before. And she was very upset that she didn't have human likeness. Like, she wanted a human face, and all she wanted to do was she wanted a human aspect, and she wanted to be pretty. And she didn't get that, so she was PO'd. She was PO'd. But I thought it was
yes.
cool to hear about kind of like, oh, I got these diamonds for you. I found this body. I mean, I found these bones. And then, you know, you need the teeth to like activate it. I think the teeth are like what?
What gives it the aspect.
Yeah. Which was, I thought that was kind of unique. I have not yet still read anything that reads similar to that other than the good old resurrection or something. But
no, I think Devin Monk talks about magic having a price that's, you know, similar to. They don't talk a lot about what the pain, like how the magical practitioners access the pain and turn it into magic in this book. But I think the Devin Monk, Allie Beckstrom series does have that connection. So it's a different kind of magic, and there's a little bit of resurrection stuff in there, but it's kind of black magic. It's not the central part of the story, but they do talk about figuring out how to pay in pain for the magic. So if you're interested in how that works, I would recommend that series. I always like that series too. So
did you also think it was kind of rude almost? Well, I thought it was kind of rude almost. The Chimera, because they're made of animals and all these different things, they're automatically read as like the bad guy. And the Seraphim, because they're angels, are automatically kind of read as like the non-bad team. Until
you mean by humans?
By humans and in the story, like as he's like telling the story, you get the impression that the Seraphim are the heroes and the Chimera are the bad people. At least that's the impression I got. But it's not so cut and dry after all. We find out toward the end. But like to me, like in my mind, you think, oh, angels good, monsters bad, because they call themselves monsters.
Gods and monsters.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I mean, I thought that was obvious from the beginning that was going to be sort of the intellectual conflict where the readers are going to go, oh, angels are always good, right? And we're calling the Chimera race monsters because that's how they seem to humans, and Carew thinks she's human, and we as readers are human. But I think they set it up right away as it's not that simple. I mean, even Akiva's existence was kind of questionable, right? So his father, there was no love between his parents, and the babies were taken away at 5 to start training for war. And I mean, it did not seem like a nice society, you know. It didn't seem like a heavenly society. And, you know, Carew latched on right away by saying, well, so the invaders are always the bad guys. So you came to their land, and just because they didn't have cities doesn't mean that they weren't valid. Right. This is where they had their babies. This is where they buried their elders. Yep. And you came in there and decided that wasn't good enough. That's. I mean, she right away had, you know, put her finger on the conflict there, I think.
Yes, it was a little rude that, you know, the animal creatures are obviously like instantly labeled as monsters. But, you know, we've seen these so-called monsters raise a human girl and like let her play with his tail, let her sleep in their little shop. And they also showed humans as really, really nasty, like all the hunters and the crazy guy in Idaho who kills grizzly bears for their teeth and whatnot, and cats, and like. So we know that everything is not black and white. There are good humans and there are bad humans. There are good monsters and there are bad monsters. There's good angels and there's bad angels.
I mean, even before we meet Akiva, when Carew was talking about her sketchbook, she said, well, humans would call them monsters, but this is how I feel, you know. So I think that was set up for us really early as you know, don't assume.
By the end of the book, we get a real clear idea that there's good and bad on each side. Like, for example, Thiago is the worst. He's the worst.com. He is the worst. And then we also know that, you know, Emperor Joram, who had all these kids, including Akiva, he sounds like the worst.com as well.
Mm-hmm.
And all
Yep.
these kids he had are all damaged. So they're probably not the best people. I'm sure there's some good and some bad. Just like it's very clear to us at the end of this story that this is a murky waters here. It's not cut and dry.
Well, both races have really been locked into this conflict for so long that they've lost the ability to see the other side with any compassion, right? And that's what Karu and Akiva's role really is to reinvent how to live. And I think that's how they said it a couple of times. It's also interesting that within the Chimera society, the human aspect is valued, right? So there's a little bit of that kind of bigotry already there, right? You mentioned it earlier, Casey, about what was her name? Chiron? That's not quite right. But
the sister.
The sister. So I don't know if that comes into play more later or not, but even within the Chimera Society, there's a little smidge of that. I haven't seen it. I don't think we haven't seen much of the Angel Society other than Akiva's experiences, but we didn't spend much time in that world like we did in the Chimera world.
Well, with the end of the book, she's going to the other side and she's following that crazy looking fallen angel. I wouldn't go anywhere with him, but okay, I guess she's desperate.
She's angry.
Yeah, she's angry. And at least now she's not going in blind. She knows where she's going. She knows who she was, who she is. And she's no longer 17 years old. In my mind, she is 67 years old or however she was when that happened. So she's no longer a child. So I don't expect that child point of view going forward. And I think we're going to see a lot more of both of this conflict as she goes cross into the other world.
Yeah, I wasn't totally clear, and maybe I should have read it again, on what she sees when she crosses over. I mean, I got the impression that she thinks that like every chimera is dead when she crosses over that barrier. I don't think that's probably true, given that there's 2 more books, but I feel like that's what she thinks at that moment.
I think she at least thinks that I think it was called the Black Castle or the Black something, wherever
the cage.
Wherever Brimstone, that's on the bottom of his shop, wherever that is, I feel like she feels that place has been attacked. That place is in danger. So maybe not all of them, but that location.
But that's where almost everybody was, right? Over the years, almost all of the Chimera had ended up there. It mentioned like there was just a couple of tribes or whatever that hadn't congregated there. So
maybe
that was the feeling
that
I got, was that her impression as she crossed over that was that almost all the Chimera are gone.
So do you think Karu's reaction to Akiva's news that, what he had been a part of and what he had done, do you think that was the right reaction?
I mean, go first. Go ahead.
It felt a little reactive. Like she probably should. It would be wise to have taken a few minutes or a day to think about it, and like, I can't see your face right now, sure, but to immediately cross over and write him off completely, when she knows that they're enemies, right, and she knows that he watched them kill her. I feel like she
reacted like a 17-year-old to me.
Like Juliet.
I mean, she jumped I feel like, yes, she should be mad, right? She thought that.
And devastated. Yes. If she feels like all of her people are wiped out, absolutely grief and horror. But I mean, to blame him after all that he's been through and all that he's seen, and thinking that she was dead.
Yeah.
It seems that's how he was raised to do.
And I mean, she remembers him screaming in agony of her being killed.
And the torture that he went through.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I can kind of see his point of view here.
Like, what guy would not want revenge on people that did that to someone they loved?
And people that he already viewed as, that he was raised to view as the enemy. Right. So they kind of proved to him that they really were as bad as as a whole. And this is where we get into sort of the racism parallels, where you think as a whole they're terrible, but those one individuals are okay. They're not like
right.
And
I guess Akiva had his token chimera, and she was the only good one.
Well, he was willing to. I mean, there was a lot of discussion in the backstory where he was like not like that, right? But her death kind of converted him back to the old viewpoint.
Yeah.
I do want to point out that, as we've already stated, she is pro retribution. Like, yes, her little wishes are like, just itch your dick in front of everybody, or you have really nasty eyebrows forever. But, that's retribution for breaking her heart. If the roles had been reversed and she had been captured and watched Akiva beheaded, she probably would have spent the next 17 years trying to figure out how to avenge his death. So for her to just, shut him out so completely and not have any sort of self-awareness to go like, yeah, I might have done that too. That was very 17-ish.
Yeah. Yeah, she's very like that. Wow. Yeah, I didn't even think of that, but it's so true.
Yeah.
But, you got to have a story, so.
Yeah. If it wasn't in the plot, there would be none. Yeah, if it was too simple, and straightforward, then there wouldn't be so much story, I guess. Okay, so is there anything else we should cover before we rate the book?
I think that's it.
I'm trying to decide between a 3 and a 4. I think that I was sort of incorrectly influenced towards the 3 because of the Kindle weirdness, right? And I just felt like it was dragging so much. And then all of a sudden it was like not dragging because it was almost done. So I feel like I was overly critical in parts of it because I thought it was moving too slowly. I don't know if it reaches a 4 for me. I do like the world building. I do like the magical aspects. I think it's really fresh and different. And if you like that sort of 17-year-old point of view, you get that heavily. So I feel bad about counting that against it because that's kind of what it is. But for me, I think it's closer to a 3. But, if you love YA and you love YA fantasy, then you're probably going to like it more than I did.
Casey?
Definitely a 4-star. It's really good, really strong writing, very descriptive, and very unique. Like we talked about, the teeth. We haven't seen teeth in any other fantasy world building. Like, it's creepy, but it's good, and it's unique, and it's interesting. And yes, there's the whole Romeo and Juliet stuff going on, but it's not overdone yet. Like, it's a really good setup, and it makes you want to read the next 2 books to see how this can possibly end.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's balanced right now. Like, it's not all like, oh, are we going to talk about this romance for 60% of the book? How swooning, like usually teens do. It's not like that, which I like, which is one of the reasons why I like the book so much. It doesn't feel like the typical YA to me.
It's not all about the triangle.
Right. It's not all about there is no triangle.
There is no triangle.
Well, I know.
Yeah. And even about that whole, it's not even all the one true love stuff, and it's not love at first sight either, really. It's like it kind of is, but not really. It's like it's not the whole thing. It's not what everything leads to or is about. I really like that it takes place in such a different environment that I'm used to. Like, I've never read anything about Prague. I could visualize it all. I loved it.
I did love that too.
Yeah, I really also like the other world that we've seen so far. And knowing we're going to get so much more of that now that she's crossed over has me even more excited to see what unfolds in the non-human world. So with all of that, I mean, there was really nothing I really didn't like. I do agree with Nicola that there were a few little areas that could have been trimmed just a little bit, that might have dragged just a tad. But first time around, I rated a 5. I'm right there again. I feel like I really liked it. And I don't want to knock it down just because of a couple of things that it wasn't strong enough for me to say I don't agree with my original rating. So I'm going to say 5.
All right.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're reversed.
Yeah. This is a very rare situation. It seems like I'm always the low baller.
You have a high bar.
Yeah. I just think this was so different and so unique. So I just give it points for that as well.
Yeah, I can see.
Oh, absolutely.
If what you're after is something that's really different than the werewolves and the vampires and the shifters and this is that. This is really different.
Yeah. And because we recently I've been talking about covers and titles, the title makes sense for the book. The cover makes sense for the book, so they get bonus points there because it actually makes sense for what we read inside the book.
Yes.
It's a beautiful cover.
Yeah. So all that good stuff. Yes. Wonderful.
And for those of you who are on the Patreon, I don't know if we can say that now, we did not pre-coordinate our outfits here.
Not at all.
But it kind of worked out that way, so it's kind of funny.
Yeah, it is. That's awesome. Okay, so I think we are done with this. And obviously, if you guys are on Patreon, then you can check out the after show that's available now. And if you aren't, hop on over to Patreon and sign up because you want to see what we have to say. So that's it for today, guys. And until next time.
Make when we say it. Oh,
I know, right? The faces. Oh, all the faces. And I can't even hold my face together. So y'all. So anyway, so we will catch you guys next month. And until then, happy reading. Take care, guys.
Bye.
If you enjoyed today's book chat episode and would like to show your support, there are a few things you can do. Head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a positive 5-star review. You can follow me on Twitter at Shelf Addiction. Most importantly, you can share this podcast with friends and family that enjoy all things bookish, including author interviews. Thank you for listening, and until next time, happy reading.
Your internet and wireless should always have you covered. And with Xfinity, you're covered far and wide. You'll get the best internet experience at home with Xfinity X5 and the best wireless coverage on the most reliable network with Xfinity Mobile. Plus, for a limited time, ask how to get $400 off an eligible Samsung 5G phone. To learn more, click, call, or visit a store today. Requires residential post-pay Xfinity internet. Restrictions apply. Samsung offer ends 9/15. 5G only in parts of select cities.
Let's go, go, with Go-Go Squeeze. We're going, growing, standing tall, climbing, laughing, hide and seeking, giving our all.
Our kids' days are filled with adventure, and Go-Go Squeeze is there for every run, jump, step of the way. Made from wholesome ingredients like 100% fruit and veggies, real yogurt, and no artificial anything. In Go Anywhere pouches, so our kids can keep going wherever their adventures take them. Go-Go Squeeze. You make the memories, we'll make the snacks. Find us in the applesauce aisle.
Let's go.